When an advisor is proficient, rebalancing when opportunity presents itself can reap substantial rewards. In this episode, I'm going to address how several IUL policies locked in gains of 61.33% tax-free in the year 2021 by using a no cap option. You'll understand this by the end of this episode. You're going to see how incredible this is and how people that had $850,000 in the year 2020 ended up with $1,380,000 1 year later on their indexed universal life policies. So let's start out with explaining what indexing is. I'm Doug Andrew, and I've been doing this for more than 48 years. But actually, indexed universal life started in 1997. Universal life was introduced by E.F. Hutton. They were not an insurance company, they were a brokerage firm, and that was in 1980. And they actually thought about, hey, we can take the least amount of insurance on a life insurance policy that the IRS will let us get away with and put in the most money the IRS allows as fast as they allow. And we can use a life insurance policy for living benefits, for tax-free income. Now, back in 1980, with Universal Life, from that year until 1990, a decade, I never earned less than 11.75% on my Universal Life policies. I earned as high as 15.5%. But then interest rates started coming down. And so in order to compete, they introduced indexed universal life or indexing. Now, I'm not talking about index mutual funds. Your money's still at risk in the S&P 500 index if you choose an index mutual fund. Your money is not at risk in the market with indexed universal life. It's safely tucked in the insurance company, earning the general account portfolio interest rate, which you can settle for if you want. Back in 1980, that was 11.75% to 15.5%. But after the turn of the century, interest rates came down, and so that rate became 4 or 5 or 6%. And sometimes people wanted a higher return than that, so they came out with indexing. So let me explain how this works. This is going to blow you away. And I'm also going to throw in a little bonus aha on how this can be used as a working capital account, not just for retirement planning or death benefit or college savings, because I compare IUL like it's a financial Swiss Army knife. It has all kinds of uses. It's the dream solution for many financial goals. So let's simplify indexing here. Let's say that you have been saving $500 a month in an IUL policy. And if you do that, in 30 years at average rates of return, you'll have $1 million in there. Most of my clients, and I have thousands of them, they might start out with a monthly deposit or a lump sum. I had many clients who put in $500,000, and that doubled in 7.5 years or 10 years to $1 million. So let's just take a snapshot in time, and let's say you have $1 million of cash value accumulated at this snapshot in time in your IUL policy. And now you want to be able to participate and link it to an index. So here's how it works. If you have $1 million of cash value, and you can extrapolate from this number, you don't have to have $1 million, you can have 10,000 or 10 million. So if it's sitting in the insurance company and their general account portfolio, which is usually made up of AAA and AA bonds, sometimes insurance companies will loan 10 or 15% of their billions they have into mortgages on skyscrapers and shopping malls, but they only loan about 50, 60% loan to value. They don't loan 80% loan to value like a bank does. In fact, that's why banks put a lot of your money you have on deposit in them into insurance companies, because they're safer and they pay higher interest. So let's say that the insurance company's general account portfolio, now some of them have trillions. One company I put my money in has $3.5 trillion. That's as much as the IRS collects in income tax in an entire year. That's one insurance company. So they're huge. A lot of insurance companies may not have $1 trillion, but close to it, maybe 800 billion or what have you. So they diversify into these conservative investments, very few stocks, and if they are, they're very conservative. And so they need money that's liquid and safe and that is not subject to market volatility. So that's why the general account portfolio rate might be 4 or 5%. So they might be earning an average of 5. They need one of those percentage points for them. They're in business to make a profit. And so the net they pay you is 4. So 4% on $1 million would be 40,000. Now, anytime you want, you can just settle for the 40,000. And at the end of the year, you'll have $1,040,000 and it will compound. But 7 out of 10 years in any decade in American history, back to the Great Depression, 7 out of 10 years, the market will have gone up higher than probably a 4% or the general account portfolio rate. But the other 3 years, maybe the market crashes. I'm going to use the worst 10-year period since the Great Depression. We call it the Great Recession, 2000 to 2010. We had 5 down years in that decade and only 5 up years. Okay? So if you were earning a general account portfolio a rate of 4% net, that's 40,000. If you feel, bearish about America, that we're headed for a recession or another dip, you can just settle for the 4%. But anytime you feel bullish about America, you can link some or all of that million, in this example, to an index or indexes or indices of your choice that they offer. Most of these insurance companies offer, 10, 12, 15 different indices. That would be like the S&P, Standard & Poor's 500, the Dow Jones, the Russell 2000, the Barclays U.S. Dynamic Balance Index. It's called the BUDB. Let's keep it simple. Let's say it's the S&P. What are you doing? This is the least understood concept by many financial advisors. You, when you link to that S&P 500 index, are not authorizing the insurance company to take one dime of your $1 million and put it at risk in the market in the S&P. Your $1 million has to stay safe in the insurance company earning 4. So what are you giving up? You're giving up the for sure 40,000 or 4%. You're telling the insurance company you can use that interest on my $1 million, 4%, $40,000 to fund an options budget. And if you link to, let's say, the S&P 500, then they will buy upside options in the S&P 500. I could take 300,000 of the $1 million and link it to the S&P, 300,000 to the Dow, 300,000 to the Russell 2000, and leave the last 100,000 sitting in there earning 4. I could diversify like crazy. Let's say you link all $1 million to the S&P. That $40,000 of options, if the market goes up, gives them the wherewithal to afford to be able to pay you whatever the S&P does. If the S&P grows 8%, they'll pay you $80,000. People say, how can they afford to do that? Because options double. Okay. What if it does 12%? Well, they'll have 120,000. They can pay 120,000 on your $1 million. They're big boys and girls. They're the number one purchasers of options in the world. But a lot of times they'll cap it. And that means that they might cap it at 12% or 16% or whatever, or 25%. But the trade-off is if you guess wrong and the market crashes, the options expire worthless. You didn't make anything, but you didn't lose the $1 million. See, Will Rogers once said people get more concerned about the return of their money instead of the return on their money when things get bad. So far, so good. So they can credit you 8, 12, up to a cap. But you can choose no cap. But if you choose no cap to what they'll pay you, they usually have to charge a fee because they have to buy the options a little bit different. So it may be what is called a 5-point spread. They're going to subtract 5 percentage points off of whatever the S&P does. So you don't lose your $1 million of principal if the market goes down. Well, let me tell you what happened in the year 2020. That was the first year, serious year of the COVID-19 pandemic, if you recall. In March of 2020, people panicked. The market dropped 30%. And when there's anxiety, there's opportunity. My two sons, co-authors with me on the book I want to gift you at the end of this episode. So stay with me. I want to gift you a copy of my book. This book explains a lot of what I'm talking about here. Now, they realized that that was an opportunity. The market was down 30% in 1 month. And so they called up their clients who had indexed universal life that could link. And they said, link, but link to a 1-year point-to-point with no cap. There's going to be a 5% subtraction at the end of the day. But they did that. And what happened is 1 year later, in March of 2021, the market was up, 66.33%. Subtract 5 percentage points, and the net was 61.33% tax-free. Yep, what did that mean? So you can't read this. This is actually a photocopy of a statement. And this client had money diversified into 3 different strategies, but the one that I'm talking about, he got 61.33%. The beginning in 2020, he had $18,745 is what it says here. 1 year later, that account was worth $29,000. Okay. What about this client? This client had $872,000 in 2020 and got 61.33%, made $535,000 tax-free, ended up 1 year later with $1,387,000. And if that next year, 2021, if the market crashed going into 2022, he wouldn't have lost one dime of the $500,000 he made the year before, because you lock in the gain and you reset every year. So if the market crashes, you don't lose what you made in previous years. This is incredible. Okay. So what does this mean? This client I just showed you needed some money. And so they borrowed $1 million out of their policy. Okay. You can take money out anytime. Now, they could have withdrawn it, but they borrowed it. Why? Because just like a client I had in the year 2017 that borrowed $1 million to pick up a piece of property, he needed that for an earnest money for a huge apartment complex. He borrowed $1 million at 5%. They charge you $50,000. He could have borrowed it or withdrawn it and not cost anything. But why did he do that? Because the $1 million of cash value he left in his IUL policy as collateral that year made 25%. He capped out at 25% in 2017. He made $250,000. The difference was $200,000 or 20% tax-free on his $1 million, even though he was technically using his $1 million for an investment outside of his policy. This is incredible. So folks, if you want to learn more about this and not miss out, you need to study this, and you can watch, you can listen and learn. But I want to have you claim a free copy of my most recent best-selling book. It's called The LASERFund, which is 2 books in 1. This side, the white side, is about 200 pages. 14 chapters with all kinds of charts and graphs and explanations. That's for the left brain thinker. If you're a right brain thinker, you flip it over and read this one. And this is 100 pages, 12 chapters with 62 chicken soup for the financial soul stories of how a max-funded IUL policy, what I call a laser fund, can be the dream solution for all kinds of financial goals. If you want to use your whole brain, right and left brain, I would recommend you read both. But simply go to laserfund.com, click on the link below, and you contribute a nominal amount towards the shipping and handling. Put a little skin in the game. You're my kind of person. I will cover the rest of that, and I will pay for the book. I will gift it to you. And then there's options there if you want to get audio, a video. There's an 18-hour masterclass, but check out some of the online virtual courses that we teach on a regular basis, like Retire by Design. Here is to your brighter future.